How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Average Garage. In today's episode, we are getting on with a trans cooler. So I've got some oil, the ATF BMW stuff from Penrite. I've got my trans cooler, I've got the hoses and the fittings. So pretty much the plan of attack is I'm going to make the mounts up for this. Once I've made the mounts up and got this mounted under the car, I'll show you where it's going to go. We will make the hoses, so cut them to the right length and join them all up. Once that's done, I'm going to fill everything with oil and mount it up there. So hopefully the only oil that I lose out of the trans will be what's in the original cooler. And with this as full when I put it all in, I shouldn't lose any oil at all. If I do, I'll try and put just a little smidge more in there. And then once the car's running and going, I can do a full flush on it. So let's get into it. Okay, so the plan is we've got this sort of hollow here. I want to have the cooler riv nutted into the quote unquote chassis rail there. So one riv nut each side, and I'll make some little angle plates that go from these outer ones up into the floor of the car. And they'll be probably riveted up into the car, and they'll also have a riv nut in them so I can tighten the cooler to them. And then it's just a matter of making the hoses. They'll run nice and straight up into those fittings there. So let's get into some fabrication. We'll make some mounts up and go from there. Okay, so I've just got the 2 bolts in there at the moment. Haven't made the L brackets, but obviously that's to come. Okay, so I found this piece of C channel here, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is chuck that just up like that. So I've just marked out on the back of it where I'm going to cut it. And I'm just going to have a small angle piece coming off that piece there. And then have a riv nut either through the C channel or more likely through the cooler itself, and then pop riveted or riv nutted up into the body of the car. Okay, so we've got the support bracket mocked up on this side. This side's going to be a super simple, just L bracket. I've drilled some speed holes in it just to try and keep some of the weight down because it is quite thick. Bracket is now fitted. So we've got the bolt in this side with the riv nut through the actual cooler itself and a riv nut into the body of the car, both of which have body sealant on them as well, so it should stop the metal between the riv nut, or where I've drilled for the riv nut, from rusting. So that's nice and firmly mounted. I'll still got to put this end one on, but I won't bother filming that because you get the idea of it anyways. So now I can start rigging up the hoses. Right, so here is the hose that I've got, which should be more than enough. And these are the fittings that go into the gearbox. So they've got 2 O-rings on this section here, so that pokes out of the gearbox. And it'll fit something like that. So there's a little 45 or whatever, 45 degree angle. Got 2 of those, so I can run the hoses up so they're not fouling with the shifter linkage. I can P-clamp them into the body if I need to, if they decide to move around too much or whatever. So they'll run up and they'll be nice and short over to the cooler. Okay, so I'm doing these AN fittings, and it's the first time I've done AN fittings like this. I have dealt with gas in the past, which uses a very similar style fitting, but I'll show you in a minute with the next one. But what I've done is I've coated the hose in WD-40, and I've softly clamped the female spide, I suppose, in the vise, rammed the hose up through it to the point where I could see the hose end. I've then fitted the male section into the hose and then dropped it enough so I could push down and start the thread. Now I'm going to wind this in, and that should, in theory, clamp the hose onto the male end. If I've done it wrong, I'm sure everybody will tell me in the comments, but that's how I've done it, and hopefully I haven't buggered it up. Alright, so with a whole lot of struggling, I finally got it on. I'm not 100% happy with the finish because it's sort of, I don't know, tried to peel the top layer off, the fibre off, but it's just pushed it all back and clumped it up down here. But beggars can't be choosers. It's good enough for now. You can see maybe just in there the hose has started coming through. So what I'm going to do is chuck this in the vise, clamp it up, not overly tight because I know it's aluminium. Okay, so that is the trans lines done. So I do have to take them off again and blow them out just to make sure there's no contaminants in there, which I'll blow the cooler out as well. And then I can fill it up with oil, and then once I've filled it up with oil, I can put the fittings back on. That way I lose a minimal amount. So what I'm going to do, I had to change this bolt here because the original bolt sat too high and it was actually touching the AN6 fitting. So the trans lines are going to be tucked up there. They'll be cable tied together obviously, so they're not rubbing on anything. If they do touch anywhere, I'll just put some rubber hose around the braided line here. So yeah, hopefully this will be all good. Like I said, strip them down, blow it out, fill it with oil, fit it all back up, and then the last job will be making a sort of like a bash plate for the trans cooler here that also directs a little bit of airflow up into it. So hopefully it's not going to be the lowest point on the car. I think the trans still will be, but that's another job. Anyways, I'm off to dinner, so we'll catch up in a little bit. Okay, so I just used this pump. I had the radiator, I had the trans cooler resting in there, so the pipes are both upwards. I filled them up, and then I've quickly chucked the cooler on this stand and started those. So now I'm going to fit the trans cooler and then tighten everything up. Alright folks, and just like that, the trans cooler is done. So the lines are run. I've used some clever cable tie trickery up in here, so it spaces the hoses apart, and it's also clamped it to the shifter line, which keeps it away from the body here, and it also keeps it away from touching the body up here. So this is a kit that I bought from Golby's a while ago. So, you know, thank you guys for hitting me up with a discount for that. It suits an FG or BABF, I think. I don't know, one of them. Anyways, it suits the Falcons, so they sell it as a complete kit with everything you need, except because I'm using it in an EL, I had to modify some bits, make up some custom stuff, mount it in a completely different location, but you get that on the big jobs. Anyways, brackets are done. I just need to put one more L bracket in that corner, which I'll do later off camera. See, it's all full of oil as well. I topped it up with some Penrite multi-vehicle auto trans fluid, the ATF for the BMW, which does suit the ZF boxes. I spoke to a couple of people, including a trans specialist, and they said this would be fine to run. So yeah, because the lifeguard stuff is about 80 bucks a litre. Alright guys, so the auto trans cooler is done. So thank you again Golby's for giving me a discount when I bought that a while ago. And anybody else who's given me advice on the way, yeah, done a little bit of fabrication myself on this one. It was pretty simple, it's just grinding and drilling really. But yeah, a couple of rib nuts, couple of bolts, she's all sorted. It's all full of oil, so I shouldn't have any dramas when it comes to starting the car. Because the rings are new, I can't really just idle it to get it to temp. I've got to sort of fluctuate the idle and then give it some load. So I probably will have to put this thing on the street. I don't have to worry about the trans anymore. It's all good. That was the thing that was sort of clouding my head a bit, wondering, it was sort of a bit of a catch-22, but it's sorted now. So thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out the other videos if you haven't seen them already, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Peace guys.